The trailer has dropped for The Marvels, a film that has cinema-goers everywhere pondering the same question. I sort of remember Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, and I sort of recognize these two other people, but what exactly is this? The trailer unveils a powerfully compelling dramatic suspense for the viewer, with its current numbers resting on a knife edge. Will it be ratioed? Never underestimate your capacity for amazement. That the playing of the track Sabotage in Star Trek has now turned out to be the second worst inclusion of a Beastie Boys song in a lame science fiction film, and that the announcement of Daisy Ridley reprising her role as Rey Skywalker in a new Star Wars film would be the week's second most disappointing reveal of a returning, never especially popular on-screen heroine. The upcoming film, which is set to hit theaters November 10th, sees Brie Larson return to her role of Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers. She is joined by Teyonah Parris as Monica Rambeau, who featured in the latter stages of WandaVision, when most of the viewership had by then abandoned the initially interesting show, and Iman Vellani, who played Kamala Khan in the overwhelmingly underwhelming box office bomb Ms. Marvel. Audiences will have had to have watched and engaged with three disparate MCU properties for this movie to make sense. The characteristics of Brie Larson people have found most jarring. Her churlish frustration and irritable or stony-faced expressions are here maximized and forefronted for your viewing displeasure. Ironically, practically the only image of Brie Larson smiling is in a ripped cartoon version of herself. Shortly after Monica and Kamala have their places swapped, we bear witness to the fulfillment of Brie Larson's deepest fantasy, being suddenly transported to a place that's essentially a shrine to her. This trailer celebrates diversity, including the on-screen depiction of white men, with this guy for 0.7 of a second, and this background guy for 0.8 of a second, for a grand total inclusion of blurry, scarcely relevant background white males for 1.5 seconds. All of which raises an ironic notion. If you're dead set on deconstructing and surpassing the white male patriarchy, you might at least include a white male patriarchy. The trailer also showcases the type of humor audiences have come to disparage. Goofy, slapstick, formulaic, and lowest common denominator gags and set pieces are all here present and correct. It also features an image of Rambeau in space that is so poorly rendered digitally, it looks less realistic than the rendering of Buzz Lightyear in what was an actual animated movie. We are also treated to a Moon Soldier's attack sequence that is so low in production quality it gives the impression that, if the actual moon landing in 1969 had been faked, this might have been the set they used then stored away in some secret studio in Burbank 50 years ago. The conceit is then explained. That whenever one of the trio uses their powers, it has the side effect of transporting or swapping another of the co-leads into that location, a plot device certain to cause tonal whiplash and grow tedious after the first 3 or 4 times, with diminishing returns of fish-out-of-water escapades. There is then some of the worst CGI I've seen in quite some time, apparently involving a Flurkin cat named Goose, an alien lifeform that is feared by even the galaxy's most ruthless civilizations. When Kamala switches place with Carol, she witnesses Goose fight off soldiers, using his tentacles to devour them. This involves a special effect that makes me yearn for the sophisticated, 3-dimensional, terrifying computer-generated realism of The Rock as a giant scorpion. The tentacle effect here will empower 15-year-olds everywhere, with a 64-bit processor and some pirated beginner plugins, to think that they too could deserve a place at Marvel Studios. Talking to Good Morning America about reprising the role of Captain Marvel, Larson said the new film would explore some of the complexities of the character. The first one was the origin story of who she is. Now it's digging into some of the complexities. That's fine, I guess, but after your character has, by the end of the first film, become a kind of soaring, all-powerful space Jesus, it kind of feels a bit like the horse is bolted when it comes to introducing subtlety and nuance. It would be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, 80 minutes into Commando, suddenly expounding on his susceptibility to the latter symphonic pieces of Mozart, or a kaiju in Pacific Rim breaking off from a wrestle to the death with a Jaeger to admire the subtle gradations of color in a sunset. There's then an exhausting escalation of rapid-fire cuts, half a dozen cats making their way down some stairs, and the obligatory drenching of a classic song with pounding waves of orchestral synths. There's a sitcom-y, high-concept energy to the teaser trailer that recalls body-swapping flicks like Freaky Friday. So, was this worth the wait? And then the further wait? And then the subsequent wait? And the ensuing wait? As someone who has no intention of watching the film, I can't wait to not find out. By the way, if you're a subscriber to the channel and you like the content, or you're part of an incredibly niche demographic that enjoys hate watching the content, it would be great if you could turn on all notifications, including for YouTube. For reasons that are too complex for my poor little brain to handle, there seems to be some little deficit there. Until next time.